Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. This time last year, we talked about a ton, and that was the St. John's Red Storm and our buddy Rick Pitino, or as I refer to him, a man full of Big Rick energy. That is right. So Rick Pitino and St. John's, we talked about a lot at this time last year. If you're a St. John's fan, you know, I think I was the first person nationally to really advocate that he needed to be the St. John's head coach when it was clear Mike Anderson was not coming back about a year and a half ago. And so I bring it up because we talked about them a lot in the offseason. He puts together a great roster. Then you go into the year, and it's kind of a strange season, right? You're up, you're down, you start hot, you start slow. Pitino himself gets COVID, misses a game. You go on a little bit of a skid. You're struggling in early February. And then Rick Pitino has that vintage Rick Pitino moment where he goes to the podium and he basically says, screw it. All my players are slow and fat and unathletic and physically weak. And the national media blows up. Oh, this is so inappropriate. And then what happens? St. John's is basically unbeatable from there. They do not lose again until the Big East tournament where they lose to UConn. Bring it up to say, at that point, I, like a lot of people, thought St. John's was an NCAA tournament team. It does not work out. And St. John's makes the interesting decision that we're going to go ahead and just skip the NIT, and we're just going to start building for the 2024-2025 season. Rick Pitino, 71 years old. He's got no time to go to the NIT. He's trying to build a national championship contender in his time at St. John's. And so the summer starts off slow. You have a couple pieces of portal news here and there. Vince Iwuchukwu from USC commits. You have the kid from North Texas, Aaron Scott. But you're waiting for those big moments that you were expecting when you hired Rick Pitino as your head coach. You're waiting for those big moments. Even the boosters, Mike Rapoli, the vitamin water guy, has been teasing big news. Well, over the last couple days, I would certainly say that we got what qualifies as big news as Rick Pitino, not one, but two big-time transfer portal commits. The first one, and by the way, St. John's fans, you all know, forgive me, but we're just going to go through it really quick. The first one, really good player that we've talked about a little bit on this show over the last couple weeks. Kid by the name of Davion Smith, played 4 years of college hoops, 3 different schools, the most recent season being at Utah. And you talk about a dynamic point guard, 6-foot point guard, originally from Georgia. But this is a kid who, in his most recent season at Utah, was dynamite. Only 6 feet, as I said, but this is a kid who averaged 13 points, 6 rebounds as a 6-foot guard, 7 assists per game. How about this? He missed about the first month of the season, still finishes with 5 triple-doubles on the season, including 2 in the final 3 games. Well, he enters the portal. We hear some Arkansas buzz. We hear some Kentucky buzz. Well, on Monday, he commits to St. John's and Rick Pitino. That's big. Don't get me wrong. But it pales in comparison to what we got on Tuesday. That is because Kadary Richmond, the number 1 player, in my opinion, that has entered the transfer portal all offseason long. This was a kid that has, it's been rumored for months, and we're going to get into this, maybe not months, but several weeks, that this kid was going into the portal. This past year at Seton Hall, Big East rival, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists per game, a big 6'6" lead guard. He's been in the portal for about 10 days. It had been speculated that he was going to end up at St. John's. And on Tuesday afternoon, it becomes official. Kadary Richmond, the, I would say, best player to enter the portal since the season ended, he officially commits to St. John's, giving them not 1, but 2 major portal commitments. And with that, I just got one question for you. What is that? What is that noise? I hear something in the background. The ground is, it's shaking. What is that I feel? Oh, I know what it is. I feel. It's that Big Rick energy, baby. That's right. Big Rick energy. Big Rick Energy, my guy, does it again. Big Rick Energy. If you're watching on YouTube, you can get that shirt at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Big Rick Energy does it again. I'm here to say he's got himself a heck of a squad for next season. Davion Smith, obviously, we've talked about a ton. Let's talk a little bit about Kadary Richmond. Really interesting recruitment. As I said, he's a 6'6" guard. He played 4 years of college basketball, started his career at Syracuse, actually entered the portal after his freshman year. And there was talk even then, is it going to be, everybody recruited him, Kentucky, et cetera, whatever. He ends up at Seton Hall and really, I think, took a little while to get going. But this past year really developed, really elevated his game. But it's been a not so subtle secret in college basketball that Seton Hall, among the power conference schools, has among the worst NIL, and that this kid was probably a kid that was going to consider entering the portal after the season. Seton Hall, fourth-year guy, listen, probably not yet an NBA player, but he's got the size and frame and ability to get there. And so you figured, okay, he's probably a guy that's best suited to come back to college basketball for another year, get a big payday, try to develop into a superstar in college and a draftable NBA player. So he enters the portal very late. And it was an interesting recruitment because we all kind of knew he was going to enter. But one, Seton Hall makes the decision that St. John's did not, which is that they're going to play in the NIT. Why does that matter? It's because Seton Hall's season went 3 weeks longer than everybody else's in college hoops. Remember, they could have shut down the season after they got snubbed from the NCAA tournament. Seton Hall, like St. John's, I thought should have been in the NCAA tournament. But it takes forever for their season to end. Then it's another 2 or 3 weeks before he actually enters. And once he entered, it was interesting because you had heard St. John's was going to be in the mix. As I said, Mike Rapoli, the top St. John's booster, actually made some sort of statement about, hey, we're about to get some kid from Seton Hall that you guys are going to love. And so it felt like it was done. But he took a visit, doesn't commit, takes a couple other visits. You start to hear some noise. Could it be somebody else? But nobody else really made sense. Kentucky had their guy in Lamont Butler. I never thought Arkansas was recruiting another point guard besides DJ Wagner. There was some Illinois buzz, but Illinois has Kylan Boswell, the transfer from Arizona. So it never really made sense. And because of it, I just sit there and say, I didn't understand what took so long, but it doesn't really matter because St. John's got their guy on Tuesday afternoon. What he brings simply is one of the best guards in college basketball. Now, listen, Seton Hall fans will tell you he's up and down, he's inconsistent, he's this, he's that. He's not a perfect player. If he was a perfect player, he would be going to the NBA this offseason. He does not shoot the ball very well, 27%, turns the ball over a little bit too much. But you can't teach 6'6". You cannot teach the wingspan, the athleticism, the passing ability. And now you put him alongside Davion Smith. I think that is as lethal of a backcourt as maybe there is in all of college basketball. Because at the end of the day, both those guys can attack. Both those guys can get to the rim. Both those guys rebound insanely well for the guard position. And in the Big East, when you're playing the UConns and the Creightons and the Marquettes and whoever's, you better be able to crash the boards. They can defend. They will be elite. Now, they do both need the ball in their hands, but I trust Rick Pitino. I think if there's one coach that can probably figure it out, my guess is that it's Rick Pitino, and my guess is that they figure it out and they are going to be just fine. And so I look at this commitment, and this is huge because Davion Smith was really good, but I hate to be a jerk. This is not intended to be that way. There's other 6-foot guards that attack the rim, get to the foul line, get others involved. There's not many dudes that are 6'6", and there's not many situations where you have a 6'6" dude with another elite playmaker. And I think this makes St. John's a contender in the Big East next year. Now, in terms of the rest of the roster, like I said, it took a little while to get it all together, but you do have a couple very nice returnees from last year. RJ Luis, 6'6", 6'7" wing. Think he is going to make a leap. As I said, you had the kid from North Texas, Aaron Scott. He's kind of a 6'7", 6'8" kind of player. 37% shooter from 3, 11 points per game at that level. I think he is going to be very good as he steps up to the Big East. And then on top of it, you got two big guys down low. You got Vince Iwuchukwu, as I said, is a former McDonald's All-American. Now, he had a very scary situation, frankly suffered a heart attack. Let's just be honest. At USC, this was pre-Bronny James. So, yes, USC has had two different scary cardiac arrest situations, but he never really got it going at USC. He transfers with Zuby Ejiofor, who transferred from Kansas last year. I'm here to tell you that is a very good roster, especially in the Big East. And the thing about the Big East, listen, I love the Big East, okay? Grew up on Big East basketball, been to a million Big East tournaments, New York City, Madison Square Garden, all that good stuff. But at the same time, if you look at next year, this league feels completely wide open outside of maybe UConn, okay? Listen, love UConn. They're great. They're talented. They're not perfect, and we'll see if Alex Caravan comes back. But they should be deemed the favorite, probably until somebody knocks them off. Back-to-back national champions, you get that. They do lose potentially all 5 starters, certainly 4, but we've talked about what they've done with Liam McNeely and Aiden Mahaney and all those guys, and they're going to be fine going forward. But you get past UConn, the Big East is kind of wide open. Creighton loses everybody but Ryan Kalkbrenner. Marquette loses Tyler Kolek, the former Big East Player of the Year 2 seasons ago. Villanova, I hate to say it, but Villanova was NILU a year ago. I think those boosters were like, what the heck are we paying for? And Villanova right now does not have a very impressive roster. Butler, I don't really care about. Providence might be pretty good. Xavier, by the way, is improved, but even their players, 2 or 3 of their key guys have injury histories, so you worry about them. And so I look at this Big East, and I think it is pretty wide open outside of UConn. And so when I look at St. John's, when I look at this team, when I look at the roster that Rick Pitino has put together, by the way, I didn't mention Brady Dunlap, who I thought played very well as a freshman. He was the guy who Rick Pitino said was physically weak. Well, he'll be in the weight room this offseason, but he was a very good 3-point shooter. But you look at this team, I'm telling you, man, they were playing as well as anybody down the stretch and played really good basketball. I think it's easy to forget. After that rant, as a matter of fact, producer Matt, why don't you just go ahead and pop up the tweet that I put out earlier in the day. But you look at Rick Pitino, okay, late in the season, remember, after that rant where he called all his players fat and slow and unathletic, his team went 6-1. Their only loss was to UConn. Here's the important part. They played UConn tougher than anyone in the country did in March. That's not hyperbole. UConn won all 6 tournament games by double figures, beat Purdue by 15 points, beat Bama by double figures, destroyed Illinois. St. John's lost by 5 in the Big East tournament to UConn. St. John's played UConn tougher than anybody in March. Went 6-1, played UConn tougher than anybody, do not participate in the postseason, and now they add maybe the best player in the portal with one of the best portal classes. This is a really good team. This is a really good program. I love what Rick Pitino is doing, and he might not be done yet. I believe they have 1, maybe 2 scholarships left. I can't imagine there's a major piece out there. The portal is closed. I don't think there's like a can't miss guy that's in the portal for them. So we'll see. I mean, maybe there's somebody that I'm mistaken that I can't think of that is in the portal. But I just bring it up because I know they went after Norchad Omier, who's at Baylor. I know they went after Cliff Omoyori, who, of course, just committed to Alabama. But when I look at this St. John's team, I believe they're as good as anybody in the Big East not named UConn. And guess what? I know this is crazy. It sounds crazy. St. John's has not won a tournament game since 2000. I think that streak ends next year. I think they'll be very good. Kadary Richmond is a very good player. And listen, he is a guy that I think is going he has evolved and developed as a player over the years. I think he matured a lot this last year at Seton Hall. And I think Rick Pitino is going to get the best out of him. What do I keep saying? You need that big Rick energy, baby. You need that big Rick energy.